Hello again and welcome back to the Book of Brett. I know it's been a couple weeks since I did a video, but I finally got some downtime. It's been about 3 weeks with no days off, no time off, and so I finally am getting around to doing another movie review, and I'm really stoked to do this one because this is about a movie that I have been waiting a while to see because it is one of my favorite horror franchises, and that movie is The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. You can see that I messed with the lighting a little bit. My backlight did go out, so there's not much I can do about that, but I am kind of playing around with the lighting. I'm also doing this on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K camera, which I'm pretty stoked to just possess. But this is not about cameras today, this is about movie reviews, and today we are reviewing The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. I'm actually really stoked, if you can't tell, about doing this movie review. I've already had a couple glasses of wine, and I'll be drinking some throughout this review. Cheers! Of course, we find Ed and Lorraine Warren again, and this time we're in the 80s, and we're following the case of Arnie or Arn Johnson, which was a real case. So we do get kind of a little bit of an exorcism of Emily Rose kind of treatment here. Now, this review I'm going to try and keep as vague as possible or as generic as possible because it is a new movie, and I'm going to preface all of this by saying you should go see this movie. I watched it on HBO Max. I believe it's in movie theaters right now, but I have social anxiety disorder and movie theaters are not my favorite place to go to, so I was really happy that they had this on HBO Max and that I could watch it early on, so I was pretty stoked about that. But basically the whole story is about how David Getzel is possessed. He's this little like 8-9-year-old kid, and he ends up getting possessed during the exorcism. Arn or Arnie, we're going to call him Arn for the sake of this video because it goes back and forth in the movie. Basically, Arn invites this entity into him to take over control. Now, one of the things I really did like about this third installment in the main Conjuring franchise was that we kind of do veer off from the whole haunted house vibe that we get in the previous two, and pretty much, if we're being honest, basically all of the movies in the Conjuring franchise. But really, without giving too much away, we have a new villain. We have someone who is not entirely demonic. And again, I'm trying not to give as much away as possible. But basically, it's a curse this time, and not necessarily just a demonic possession. And I kind of like the fact that they weren't content to just keep going with the whole haunted house vibe. Now, we do still have Ed and Lorraine Warren, and we can't talk about Ed and Lorraine Warren in The Conjuring without talking about the real life Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine Warren, as I'm sure we're all aware at this point, were demonologists. Lorraine professed herself to be a clairvoyant, and let's all be completely honest here, it was all a bunch of bullshit. The Conjuring 3 is a ton of fun. I had a ton of fun watching this movie. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are amazing as usual. Everything in this movie is incredibly well done. The lighting is amazing. The cinematography is amazing. The story is amazing. It's got some plot holes in there, but you know, I can kind of let that go. This review is a little biased because I do enjoy this franchise a lot. Two main plot holes that really come to mind are the fact that they end up keeping an item, without giving too much away, they keep an item that isn't containing an entity. Because if you remember from the other Conjuring movies, the reason they keep these items in their house is to keep them contained. It's basically a prison for the entities. That isn't the case in this movie, and so it did stick out to me a little bit that they end up keeping this item, especially after saying you should burn it. The other thing that kind of stood out to me a little bit was we do get this scene. Arn is in either a prison or a mental institute. I'm pretty sure it's a prison though. And he's making a circle around himself to protect himself with holy water. And it's a bottle maybe this big. It's not enough water to create the circle that he's in. And it's this huge glaring plot hole that I could get over, but I couldn't help but notice at least. I will say, of the three main movies, this is the weakest one. It was directed by Michael Chaves, who also directed The Curse of La Llorona, which was a heaping pile of shit. So going into this, I already knew that it was directed by Michael Chaves, so I did have a little bit of reluctance. And as I'm watching this movie, I started really to think about, like, what's so appealing about the Conjuring franchise. And I think really what it is we have these movies that are at their core, especially if we get off into the spin-offs, they're about the villain. Much in the way Child's Play or Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, what they're really about is the experience that these villains are putting our protagonists through. And that's what I really think makes these movies so interesting and what makes us want to watch more of them. We do get this mix of, we really want to see what fucked up shit the antagonist is gonna do. What is it really gonna put our protagonist through? But we also have this attachment to the protagonist, which is really interesting considering the protagonists, other than the main Conjuring movies, the protagonists always change. They're always actually quite different. We get these protagonists that are interesting, these protagonists that we're invested in, because just naturally we sympathize, empathize, whatever you want to call it, with the main people, because we're supposed to, they're the protagonists. That's who you're supposed to attach yourself to. But you're really interested in what is the antagonist gonna end up doing. And this antagonist, she is quite different. And the woman who plays her is a total badass. It's definitely the weakest of the main three Conjuring movies, but it's not in a terrible way, or it's not in a way that it ruins it. We get many, many moments throughout this movie that are scary, that are intense. The very opening scene is awesome. The visual effects while David is going through this exorcism and when he's contorting his body and everything, the effects in this scene are awesome. This is a very fun movie, but not it's bad, but it's fun. No, it's good and it's fun. It's just a lot different than what we're used to with the Conjuring series. But that's the thing, is I've been reading reviews of people talking about, you know, not enjoying it as much, and a lot of it seems rooted in the fact that it did veer off quite a bit from what we're used to in the Conjuring. James Wan himself said the third installment isn't going to be a haunted house movie. And whether or not you wanted a haunted house movie or not, you have to respect the fact that this man is willing to veer off and make something different. Rather than going along with the same, like what we do in a lot of other franchises like the Avengers and Justice League and these superhero movies, which, if you don't know my feeling on superhero movies, they're not good. I'm so fucking sick and tired of the Avengers. I'm sick and tired of superhero movies, and just perpetuating the same regurgitation over and over again for the sake of a money grab. And God bless James Wan for, I almost said James Woods. Thank God for James Wan wanting to branch off and go do something a bit different. Speaking of money, this movie was done on a moderately low budget of $39 million. I know $39 million is a lot. Not in the context of movies nowadays, especially not in the context of blockbusters, big budget movies that people are expected to go watch. $39 million is nothing, especially when you've got a series that is so well established. Michael Burgess was the DP on this movie, and he's DP'd a ton of high budget. I mean, we're talking like, in fact, just hang on. Let's find Michael Burgess's credits. I mean, we're talking Castaway, Spider-Man, The Polar Express, Enchanted, Source Code, The Muppets, The Conjuring 2, Aquaman. I've seen credits for Annabelle. The dude knows his shit. And so it's really no surprise that this movie came out looking the way that it did. The original two Conjuring movies, they were very big on using minimal light sources, which I'm actually a big fan of. I like, especially in horror, when everything isn't really displayed prominently. The directing was very good. Definitely better than The Curse of La Llorona. I gotta give it to Michael Chaves on this one. If you have not seen La Llorona, you are not missing much. Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, I mean, they give amazing performances in this movie. The guy that plays Arn, Ruari Ferguson, I want to say, but I know that's not correct. He does an amazing job playing Arn. Everybody gives a stellar performance in this movie. If you've not read a lot on Ed and Lorraine Warren, I would suggest you just don't. Maybe avoid that. Keep the mystery going. So this is definitely a movie that is a lot of fun, even if you're not a fan of the Conjuring series. If you do enjoy the Conjuring series, this will not disappoint. This is going to, I think, make every fan of the Conjuring universe very, very happy. At least I hope it does, because I would like to see them continuing to make these. And as I'm doing this review, I'm starting to understand why people feel about the Avengers and Thor and Justice League the way that they do, because I would like to see more of these, even if other people don't care. And I'm sure that's the way a lot of people feel about the Avengers movies, which is why I've never really on superhero movies a lot, because it's like, I think they're garbage, but just because I think they're garbage doesn't mean they're garbage. With that though, guys, if you do like the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, throw me a thumbs down. I would love to see some suggestions down in the comments. If you guys do have movies you would like me to check out, I would love to go and watch those and do a review on them. But please like, subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever makes you happy. Leave some comments, and I will see you guys next time.